Yo, 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 what up, Matt Nish? I can't say it with a straight face. I can't say it with a straight face. Hello, everyone. I have New Year's Eve off this year, which is a very rare occurrence for me. I usually have to work New Year's Eve, and I graciously have this year off. And wouldn't you know it, none of my friends are available. Most of them are going out of town. Actually, most of my friends live out of town, like as is. I have more friends who don't live anywhere near me than I have that live here. But even the ones that live here are either going out of town or they're part of a frat, and this is like their last frat New Year's. So I am all alone for New Year's Eve. But there's something about the winter months that just makes me want to curl up under a nice little blanket and watch the sickest shit I can get my grubby little mitts on. So I have planned for New Year's Eve a 24-hour exploitation movie marathon. And I thought I would share the experience with all of you here on the brand new Matt to the Matining. I've got a schedule picked out. Hopefully I can stick to it. This is going to be a fun one. My hair is wet, which doesn't look super good. So hopefully that won't be a problem when I come around to the next one. I am starting this at 11 o'clock on the 30th, not midnight the 31st, because I'm gonna, call my partner right before midnight, you know? So, this is going until 11 on New Year's Eve, not midnight, but this is how we're gonna spend our New Year's Eve. This is how we're spending the last 24 hours of the year, watching these movies, and it's 10:57 right here. Over here on the couch, the only light is my very orange lamp, which is not even pointed at my face, so this is not a good look. I'll film somewhere else till the sun comes up, but I've got my first movie, Wolf Creek, pulled up, and I've also got a nice little breakfast burrito to keep me going through the night. So, it is 10:59, and I am gonna start my first movie at 11 exactly. So, give it just a second, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so not off to a great start, although that's probably my fault for picking a horror film from the 2000s. The 2000s were just not a good decade for horror films. This is the really typical, slow, obnoxious torture porn you got a lot of in the 2000s. It actually reminds me a little of House of a Thousand Corpses, if House of a Thousand Corpses had absolutely zero style and, kind of obnoxious characters. I didn't hate the characters in this film. There are certainly worse horror protagonists from around this time, but I didn't really like them that much either. This movie takes forever to start, and I get that that's kind of the point. I was a little annoyed by how long it was taking to get into everything, but I'm like, okay, if they can have a really solid back half, that can make up for what they've got going on here, and they just don't. They just the back half. It's not interesting at all. It's, like I said, the same type of torture porn schlock you expected from this era. This is an Australian film, and it does not let you forget that. It is aggressively Australian. And I will say the one part I really liked about the movie was the villain, Mick Taggart, played by John Jarrett. I hope I'm saying that name right. He's an interesting character, and this has both a sequel and a spin-off TV series. And I might actually be interested in that spin-off TV series because I like this character, and I think the series is pretty recent, so I think you could have a lot of fun with this character. This is not a fun movie, nor is it really trying to be, but this is not a fun movie, and I get that it's not supposed to be fun, but there's also just not enough going on for it to, warrant how miserable it gets in places. This is not the worst thing I've ever seen. I could certainly understand why someone might be into it. Like I said, I compared it to House of a Thousand Corpses, and I like House of a Thousand Corpses. But I like House of a Thousand Corpses because it's a very fun, stylized movie. This is not that. It's not fun, and it's not stylized at all. It's actually pretty bad cinematography. A lot of it's handheld. That does sort of add to this, like, gritty, realistic edge it has going on, but I don't know, overall, just not a movie I really enjoyed. Wouldn't recommend it, but I also understand anyone who likes it. Oh, and I forgot to say, I'm keeping track of the body count. I have my prediction at about 200, because that would be 14 bodies for 14 movies, would put you just shy of 200, so I'm rounding up to 200. This one, it's a little difficult to parse out because there's some scenes in a basement with just like a bunch of bodies, but I've got a pretty good idea of what I think the body count for this movie is, so we'll keep a running tally here. Moving on to the next film. Woof. I mean, wow, what the fuck? Okay, so this came out in the 70s, and audiences in the 70s probably didn't realize it, but now that we're in the future, let's call this what it is. This is a fetish movie. So this is a movie about a man with developmental issues, so he still behaves like a baby, even though he's like in his late 20s, clearly. And yet it is weirdly horny in a lot of scenes. Like a lot of scenes with the baby, and it's like, that I think someone writing this wanted to wear a diaper, lay in a crib, and get fucked. It's also about a social worker who kidnaps a mentally handicapped man and murders his family. So, yeah, this is a wild one. It's like a toned down John Waters film, right? It's got the same like kind of look to it. It looks like a John Waters film. It's got that same kind of color, that same kind of grime to it. Yeah, it's sort of performed like a John Waters film, and it's got that same sort of sick surrealist sense of humor. It is not as gross as a John Waters film would be, but otherwise it has a lot of his hallmarks. Just a fucking baffling film. I don't know if I would recommend this or not. I mean, if you're down for just like a fucking assault on your and on every sensibility you have, yeah, sure, watch The Baby, but man, my partner works in child psychology, and I am not sure if they would love or hate this movie. But I'm sure as fuck gonna show it to them. I might not be dating after that, but I am sure as fuck showing it to them. It was weird as goddamn fuck, but it was not that raunchy. There's not that much violence, and I did imply that it was a fetish film, and it definitely is, but it's not super sexual. There's very little nudity, if any. I think you could see some nipples in a couple scenes, but all things considered, it was pretty tame. It's probably going to be the tamest movie of the night. At least in terms of like offensive content. It's not gonna be the tamest in terms of sheer fucking weirdness. It's already beating Wolf Creek for that title. Although parallels with Wolf Creek, someone gets tied up in close proximity to something that could easily cut the thing they are tied up with. So good work, both the guy from Wolf Creek and the women from this movie, for tying people up next to things that could release them. Good job. The Baby. Weird as fuck. See you in the next one. Terminal Island. What a concept. Convicted murderers are all sent to an island where there's no rules. They're all in charge of themselves. You just gotta stay on this island and deal with the other murderers. Fucking insane movie. This movie is excellent at exposition, right? Because it opens on like a news crew discussing Terminal Island, and it gets all this information out very quickly and in a way that feels very natural. Like, yeah, it's hitting you over the head with exposition right out the gate, but it found a very realistic way to do so. I feel like I didn't feel like it was just characters spouting exposition pointlessly. This felt like something that could actually happen. It just also happened to spill all of the exposition you needed for this movie. I really liked this one. I had a lot of fun with this one. It is a little ridiculous. The island they're on just so happens to have all the ingredients necessary for poison darts, gunpowder, and a radio. They build all that with just the equipment on the island. Also, the state seems to be providing them with knives and axes and bow and arrows. I guess in the hopes that they'll kill each other off? I mean, you could argue it's for survival, but you know, you're giving it to these murderers, they're gonna use it to kill each other. Also, everyone in this film just knows way too much about wilderness survival. Just like, anytime anything happens, one character will be like, well, all you need to do is blah, 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 and that'll fix this problem. It's like, how do you know that? How do all of these characters know so much about wilderness survival? What are the odds? There's like a bad faction of the murderers who are like, really mean, and they've trapped all the women, and they're holding the women for sex. And then there's the good guy tribe of murderers, and they're all the good guys running around the island trying to avoid the bad guys. And finally, it all comes to a head, and they just have to like face each other head on. And it's such a good movie. It's so much fun. It's probably everything I wanted from this concept. I will say, I think I would like to see this remade. I would like to see a maybe more serious version of this. And furthermore, it's a little organized for the concept of just like serial killers on an island together. I think I'd rather just see a fucking free-for-all where they all just go right after each other right from the get-go. But for what it is, a lot of fun. It's a lady-directed movie. This is from Stephanie Rothman. So, female director. Important to have in your incredibly violent movie marathon. Features Tom Selleck in a somewhat minor role. He doesn't become big in the movie until about halfway through. But Tom Selleck's in there. He's probably the biggest actor they got on this. The lead bears a bit of a resemblance to Pam Grier. I almost wonder if they wanted Pam Grier for this and couldn't get her. I saw some people online call this a blaxploitation film. I think that's unfair. There's a lot of white characters in the main cast too, but yeah, the lead, the romantic lead, and several other characters are all black. There are plenty of black characters in this film, so if you wanted to call it blaxploitation, I'd say that's a stretch, but you're not totally incorrect. I am very happy I picked up this Vinegar Syndrome release. I will be poring over these special features because this is a movie I really enjoyed. I had heard someone I follow on Twitter really liked the director, Stephanie Rothman, and this is the first film of hers I've seen, but I would definitely like to see more from her because this was an excellent movie, highly recommended by me. Strip Nude for Your Killer. What a title. This is A pretty typical giallo. It's exactly what you expect from a giallo. There's a murder mystery. Some people get off. There's some, good violence. It's not that visually crazy compared to some of the other stuff coming out of Italy at the time. It does have some really good visual moments. I won't lie about that. But compare this to like an Argento or a Fulci or something like All the Colors of the Dark. This isn't that visually interesting as far as giallo go. The only thing that really distinguishes it from like any other giallo is there's a lot more nudity in this one. I don't think it was bad or anything. I did enjoy it pretty well. I do tend to like giallo, but it's very typical, very it's exactly what you expect if you know like anything about giallo. There are much better giallo out there. I can't say this is something I would really recommend to you if you are like new to the genre or if it's not really a genre you like. Now, if you're into giallo, yeah, Strip Nude for Your Killer is a pretty decent one. It's fine. So I would really only recommend this to people who are already really into giallo. And frankly, if you're already that into giallo, you probably have already seen Strip Nude for Your Killer. It's not that obscure of a movie. But maybe if you're like kind of new to it, you've seen like the big ones, like All the Colors of the Dark and Deep Red and Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Uh, this could be one worth checking out. It is an enjoyable film, even if I don't think it is anywhere near the best giallo. I'm not gonna lie, I was nodding off a little during this one, not because it's boring, just because I'm really sleepy, and there was just like a minute of complete silence, and I'm like, huh. Strip Nude for Your Killer. It's fine. Moving on to the next one. Uh, Look at that. Sun's coming up. It's light outside. It was a nice purple earlier. Now it's just gray. Real hazy this morning. I just watched The Untold Story, a Chinese horror film, a Hong Kong horror film, I think, actually. Um, Infamous for its violence. And yeah, I can definitely see why it's a pretty aggressive film. It starts off with a lot of like wild serial killer shit that you expect, but near the end of it, it sort of becomes torture porn for this one serial killer guy. So you kind of feel less bad about it because you're like, oh fuck, he's a serial killer. Like he can, they can beat the shit out of him, and I don't care. Yeah, I could have done with a little less police brutality, but when like the prisoners are beating him up and stuff, it's like, yeah, fuck him, he deserves it. That said, it gets really tedious and really unpleasant to watch. So I do really prefer the wild serial killer shit. It's also just kind of juvenile. Like the humor with the cops is always like, "Whoa, hot girl walks by," and all the men cops are like, "Whoa," and then they make fun of the girl cop for looking like a man. Never seen that before. It's also got the lovely plot of, oh no, the meat this guy was selling was human meat. Never seen that before. That said, it does have on-screen child death, which is a delicacy, so points for on-screen child death. They did not cheap out. The child dies on-screen. Children die, actually. Several of them die on-screen. A few are off-screen, but you know what? They gave me... All I need is one. One good enough for me. That is enough for me to not consider you a coward. The Untold Story is not my favorite thing, but it's fun. It has its moments, so moderate recommendation. I guess it really depends on how you feel about like the gore and violence and shit. That may affect your mileage with this one. But if you're down for some good old fashioned violence and gore and horrendous shit, yeah, you could do worse than the Untold Story. At one point, they're torturing him to keep him awake, and I'm kind of feeling it right now. The sun's coming up, so hopefully my circadian rhythms will kick in and I'll have another couple hours. But, I was very close to losing it there for a little while. The Video Dead, cute, cheap little zombie movie. It was fun. I would be hard pressed to call it good, but it was fun. It was cute. It was charming. Clearly, this was made by people who have a deep, deep love for horror movies. There are a lot of references to other horror movies within this one. And I mean, it's called The Video Dead. Like, from the jump, it's clear this is like a horror movie about horror movies, right? The zombies in this film, if you can even call them that, have some very odd rules, so it's always interesting when you get those zombie movies that don't quite follow the rules everyone else does. The zombies in this movie can't really be killed unless they, like, eat themselves. And they're scared of mirrors. They don't like looking at themselves. They don't even seem to like want to eat people. They just want to kill people because they're jealous of people for being alive. It's a very odd set of zombie rules, but that makes for an interesting movie. That makes for a fun movie. You can't just do to them what you usually do with zombies. It also means they can get away with a lot fewer zombies. There's only like 5 zombies in the movie, but all 5 of them I really like. They're all very unique zombie creatures. One guy's got like what is that called? A clothing iron stuck in his head, and one of them's like a cowboy dude, and one of them's like this punk rock kid. It even has a little bit of clever subversion, although this might be dipping into spoiler territory. So if you're concerned about spoilers for The Video Dead, maybe skip ahead to the next one. But they introduced the girl, Zoe, as I guess is the main character, but then you end up spending most of the film following her brother, Jeff. So it's really jarring when right before like the climax, Jeff gets killed, and you're like, what the fuck? I thought he was the main character, and then it just goes back to Zoe, and you're like, okay, I guess we're back to Zoe now. Thought Jeff was gonna be the main character, but nope, it actually was Zoe. No, to be clear, the performances in this movie are bad. A lot about this movie is bad, very bad production value on this one. But it's fun, it's charming, it's made by people who clearly love the genre. So overall, maybe worth a watch. I suspect the people in my audience would probably enjoy this. Alright, so we're at the halfway point. Actually, it's 12:30, so it's a little past the halfway point, but I've got some shorter movies in the back half, so it's the halfway point in terms of the number of movies I'm covering. I've gone out to get some food and also some caffeine to keep me rolling, and I just finished Umberto Lenzi's The Tough Ones, aka Rome Armed to the Teeth, aka Brutal Justice. It's an Italian movie. It's got 1,000 fucking names. So, if Sylvester Stallone's Cobra is Dirty Harry but less subtle, The Tough Ones is Cobra but less subtle. This is like the bluntest piece of propaganda I have ever seen. It's like every person in the city of Rome is a violent criminal, and not a single one of them can be arrested because the police are wrapped up in too much red tape. Now, I say at that point,
you might as well just become a vigilante, because apparently nothing is being done to violent criminals, so just quit the force and become a vigilante. This is from the Italian subgenre Polizei? I hope I'm saying that right. It's the Italian word for police. It's an Italian police movie. It's not a genre I am overly familiar with. I'm a big fan of Ruggero Deodato's Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man, but I think this is the only other one that I have seen, and it is not as good as Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man. It's pretty unfocused. Like, it's mostly just loose vignettes of this cop seeing a crime happen and then taking the law into his own hand and just, like, beating the shit out of criminals. Yet remember when I was complaining about the police brutality in Untold Story? It's got nothing on the tough ones. I don't know, it's fun, but it's not something I would recommend going out of your way to watch. If you're a fan of these Polizei movies, maybe, but this is nothing stand out about it. It's a fun little cop movie. It is pretty blunt with its pro-police message, but otherwise, it's fine. It's just a little unfocused. There's not any, like, huge action set pieces. There's, like, a cool car chase near the end that I liked, but otherwise, not really any big action set pieces. This Grindhouse releasing Blu-ray does something that I hate. They have subtitles that do not match the English dub. If you're gonna put out this, like, super nice special edition, get subtitles that match the English dub. Like if you want to have a more accurate subtitle track, fine. Just have 2 subtitle tracks. One for the dub, and one that is a more accurate subtitle track. Anyways, I ended up watching it in Italian with the English subtitles because I can't stand hearing English and then seeing subtitles that do not match the English. I'm gonna go get my pizza.
Gene Roland's Nude Vampire, the second movie I've talked about with nude in the title. So back in October, I watched The Living Dead Girl for Metalween, and I really liked that movie. And that was also about the time I saved up all my birthday money and bought myself a subscription to the Arrow video streaming service, which is actually how I've managed to watch a lot of the movies I've been talking about today. Shout out to Arrow streaming. Hashtag not sponsored. So I was excited to see that Arrow had a collection of Gene Roland's movies, because I wanted to check out more of what he had done. Nude Vampire ended up being absolutely nothing like Living Dead Girl. Well, that's not true. There are similarities between the two, but Living Dead Girl is a very straightforward movie about, like, a girl comes back to life and her friend is, like, killing people to keep her alive still. Nude Vampire is this very bizarre, surreal movie. It's got sort of a Jodorowsky quality to it, to the point I was worried it was about to, like, pull a holy mountain and end with a fourth wall break. So I'm not sure what the body count of this movie is. Because it's unclear what's real and what's not real. Characters will die and then come back to life. And I gotta be honest, I'm not sure what all it's building to. Right? That's where I would separate this from, like, a Jodorowsky film, because usually I can figure out what Jodorowsky's trying to say. I have no clue what he's trying to say with this movie. Something about how, like, mutants are the future. This is like a pro-X-Men movie. Like, Magneto directed this. Still, though, brilliant visual style. Brilliant visual style. I love the way this movie looks. There's these women in the movie who have this wild outfit they wear. It's like these big metal belts with these, like, shower rods that loop over and sort of just, like, have tiles hanging in front of their tits. It doesn't really cover their tits. You can still see them most of the time, but it, like, kinda covers it. It's got a weird dreamlike quality to it, which is really not good for someone who has been awake I don't even know how long now.
I'm on like hour 15 of this marathon, but I started at 11 at night, so I've been awake for over 24 hours now, not counting a nap I took yesterday right before I started. Yeah, so Nude Vampire, I don't think I get it, and maybe if I was in a different state of mind, I would enjoy it better. Be that a stable state of mind, or be that high as shit, because I think I probably could smoke a bowl and then watch this movie and be like, yeah, man, yeah, whatever the fuck this is, yes. But, I did enjoy it a little bit. I would certainly recommend Living Dead Girl over this one, but, not a bad little movie. I had fun with it. It's certainly interesting. Oh, I'm running out of places to film, so here's my VHS collection with my Lyle the Kindly Viking inflatable. So I just watched Oasis of Zombies from infamous Spanish director Jess Franco. Jess Franco is sort of the old school version of Harmony Korine? Like, his movies are all, like, really weird and gross, but they're also kinda supposed to be parodies. At least most of them are. This one I don't think was. Oasis of Zombies was just really boring and disjointed. It almost felt like two movies mashed together. Like, the first 20 minutes are this, like, British soldier in World War II, fighting Nazis, and then it cuts to like his son going to where he fought the Nazis to find this like buried treasure. It feels very disconnected, sort of like Hell of the Living Dead. Hell of the Living Dead is not a movie you want to be compared to, and yet I might prefer Hell of the Living Dead to this, because at least I got a few moments of entertainment out of Hell of the Living Dead. This is one of the most boring zombie movies I have ever seen. It is so dull. There are like 3 scenes with zombies in them, and that's it. It's a really boring movie. This is the worst one so far. This is the worst movie I have watched in this marathon. Which is disappointing because sometimes I do enjoy Jess Franco. Not all the time, but every now and then he makes something sick and weird enough that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Not this one. This one's just so incredibly dull. Although, as you can clearly tell, this is an international film marathon. We started with an Australian film. We've had 2 Italian films, a Chinese film, a French film, and now we're on to a Spanish film, plus America. So 6 different countries so far. I think the rest are all American, though. So don't get your hopes up for any more international stuff. Maybe. I'll look and see. But, 6 different countries. That's pretty good, I think. Anyways, I have nothing to say about Oasis of Zombies. It is so fucking boring. The zombie effects are cool, I guess, but who cares? Who cares? There's nothing to carry that. I'm just gonna put Lyle right back there. Actually, I'm gonna turn him around. Yeah. Get the Larry side facing out. Alright, so I watched Seeds, a 60s sexploitation film, which is the oldest film I have on the docket. Good old 60s sexploitation, where you just had to put naked people on screen and that was enough. You didn't need anything else. Naked people was a novelty enough in the 60s. To Seed's credit, there is a little more going on than just the naked people, although it is mostly the naked people. They take up a lot of screen time. Like, without them, the plot's maybe 20, 30 minutes. It's a Christmas movie, so probably one of the first Christmas horror movies. A daughter invites like the whole family to her mom's Christmas, and the mom hates like the whole family. But it turns out this was all a front to just murder all of them one by one. So there's like a murder mystery thing going on. It's sort of like a raunchier version of Old Dark House. Like in Old Dark House, like these young kids show up at this old dark house and start having sex, and then they get killed off one by one for having sex in the old dark house. Unlike Old Dark House, however, they are allowed to show the sex. Boy, it gets dark fast this time of year. This movie also has some dialogue I really like, in particular the line, "You can't just kill a bitch like mama." I've been trying to come up with a ranking for these, and while I think Wolf Creek is probably a more complete movie, a movie that has intentions and follows them all the way through to the end without just having random pointless extended sex scenes, I think Seeds is the more interesting watch of the two. Much like most of these films, that is not a complete recommendation, but I did have some fun watching this movie. If you like 60s sexploitation as much as I do, Seeds is one of the better ones. Oh, we made it sun up to sundown. We're rounding the home stretch here. Oh, we're coming out the other side. My hair's getting greasy. So I watched Satan's Lust, which is featured on the brand new American Genre Film Archive Smut Without Smut Satanic Horror Night Blu-ray. Another sexploitation film from the 70s, although in this case, you might argue it's just a straight-up porno. Like, it's pretty much right at that line. But like, 70s porno, when there was a plot and none of the sex looked appealing. 70s porn is really gross, and this is no exception. Although I think unlike the porno chic of the era, stuff like Deep Throat or Debbie Does Dallas, I think it was probably a little more fetishistic with its plot. I mean, I suppose fucking cheerleaders is kind of a fetish, but it's it's a pretty common thing. It's something a lot of people do. Satanic, that's a bit of a fetish. They play the most unfitting music in this movie. I can't show you a clip of it, obviously, but just, imagine two people going at it, and this is playing. Also, I swear to God, at one point, they play Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. It's just an instrumental version of Yellow Submarine. I haven't been putting clips in so far, or at least I haven't been setting up to put clips in so far, but I think I have to put that clip in. I had fun with this one, but yeah, this is not going to be everyone's thing. It's a satanic 70s porno. You get exactly what it says on the tin. Like, don't expect anything more than that description. Why do I feel less tired than some of the earlier movies? So I watched Killer Workout, also called Aerobicide. That was the title card in the movie, but the box says Killer Workout, and everywhere I've looked, I found Killer Workout. Although it does say AKA Aerobicide on the box, so apparently those were equally popular names. So this was an odd slasher movie, because there were kills throughout, and there was kind of a search to find the person killing people throughout, but most of it, it's like, it would be like 5 minutes of people doing exercise in a gym, and then there's a kill, and then it's 5 more minutes of people exercising to this exact same song. It's the same song every time they're doing it. It is a really repetitive movie, and they do get into some plot at the end, but
God damn, they have just padded this movie to hell and back with people exercising. This is a weird angle to film at. It's all three-dimensional. So, the villain uses a couple of weapons, but mostly they use this giant safety pin. Like, they've unhooked this safety pin, and they stab people with the pointy end. And I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound very safe to me. Also, despite the fact that no one uses them for diapers anymore, like diapers have little sticky things on them, so you don't need the pins. I still always think of safety pins as something you put on diapers. So every time I see the killer coming through, I'm like, oh, the killer is a giant baby. They just took the safety pin off of their oversized diaper and stabbed someone with it. It's the guy from Baby's returned. He's come back with his giant safety pins to stab people in this movie. I would say this is like a mid to lower tier slasher movie. This is not one you need to run out and get. Although if you're just looking for a weird slasher you've never seen before, you could certainly do worse than Killer Workout. I am so close to the end of this. Let's just wrap this up. Tales from the Quadead Zone. I have no idea what Quadead means. I looked it up. Apparently this is the only time the word Quadead has ever been used. So, I don't know what it means. Tales from the Quadead Zone is a shot-on-video horror anthology, and much like most shot-on-video movies, it is a lot of padding for a handful of moments that are just completely cuckoo bananas insane. I apologize if you can hear fireworks. The fireworks are going off heavy right now. So, Tales from the Quadead Zone starts with a mother reading stories to her ghost son. The first story she reads is just about a guy who shoots all of his kids. Points for on-screen child murder. The second one is about a man who murders his brother because his brother is always, better at him at stuff, but better than him at stuff. And it spends 15 minutes on the dude just ranting about how his brother fucked him over. This is a short movie. This movie is an hour and 2 minutes, and they still padded it to hell. It's an anthology movie. Just write another story, my dude. Yeah, Tales from the Quadead Zone. It's an odd one, but I did enjoy myself. It's a cheesy little fun fest. We're running just a little over. And finally, the last movie I watched in the year of our Lord 2021, Spider Baby, or The Maddest Story Ever Told. A Jack Hill production. This is one of those movies that I have just held on to with the knowledge that, I'm gonna like this movie, so I better save it for, a special occasion. I know I'm gonna enjoy it. I know this is a movie I am going to like, so better save it for a good time. And the end of a marathon to end 2021 is the best time I can think of to watch this. This is the last movie I watched all year. It's the last movie I watched all year. I gotta say that it is fucking insane to me that Lon Chaney Jr. and Sid Hain are in a movie together. Cause to me, Lon Chaney Jr., he's best known for stuff from the 30s, right? He was the Wolfman. He was stuff way back in the day. Whereas Sid Haig continued making movies up until 3 years ago. He died 3 years ago. So, like, Sid Haig is my lifetime. Lon Chaney Jr. is, like, decades ago. So the fact that they made a movie together is just insane to me. Spider Baby kind of feels like the midpoint between, like, the Addams Family, and I mean, like, the original TV show, The Addams Family, and Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. So I feel like this is kind of how Rob Zombie's The Munsters is gonna come out, assuming that film ever releases. It seems like it's been stuck in development hell for a while. It has been making progress this year, so fingers crossed we finally get Rob Zombie's The Munsters. And fingers crossed it's like Spider Baby, because I really enjoyed this film. Like I said, this is a movie I knew I was going to enjoy, so yeah, the fact that I enjoyed it is not at all a surprise. Jack Hill is a director I like. He did Switchblade Sisters, and he did Foxy Brown, which are both movies I really love. Here in this film, he is clearly taking some inspiration from the Addams Family, but making like a weird ass family that you could kind of get away with in an exploitation film in the 60s. Like, he's really pushing some boundaries here in a way the Addams Family TV show never would have. So I really enjoyed that. And of course, you know, it's got Lon Chaney Jr., it's got Sid Haig. Overall, it's just an amazing movie to watch. I really enjoyed Spider Baby. Yeah, Spider Baby, fun time. I'll have a wrap up Monday morning. What say you, Monday morning, Matt? Okay, it's the Monday after. It's January 3rd, 2022. Time to reflect on my 24-hour movie marathon. That shit was wild. I was feeling it a little by the end. Because, not even exhaustion. I felt most of my exhaustion pretty early in the day. By the end of it, I was like, nah, I'm feeling much better now. Once I started putting booze in my system, you know, I'm like, actually, yeah, I can keep rolling. I was watching Tales from the Quadead Zone, and I'm like, it feels like I watched Wolf Creek, like, a week ago. You know, not 24 hours ago, like a week ago. I consistently forgot to mention stuff that I wanted to mention, so I'm gonna put a few notes in here. First off, during Satan's Lust, there's a scene where, like, you know, they have sex, and then the guy's, like, taking a phone call, and the woman's just sitting there, like, playing with his dick, which I thought was really funny. I think it's worth noting that Tales from the Quadead Zone, I couldn't understand, like, hardly any of the fucking dialogue. Like, it's such muffled, because it was shot on video, so it's this muffled shot on video audio, and I'm like, what even are you saying? What are these words? I don't understand. I mean, I still generally got the gist of it, but I don't know, odd movie. So I should mention the body count. Here is the body count breakdown for all of the movies. For a grand total of 187 dead bodies. I was 13 short. If I had just guessed 13 deaths per movie instead of 14 deaths per movie, I would have had it exactly. Terminal Island and Oasis of Zombies were doing the heavy lifting on that one, which is pretty much the only plus side of Oasis of Zombies. That count might be off by a little. Firstly, for movies like Nude Vampire, where the body count is a little debatable, but also because, you know, by the end of it, I was a little out of it, so there might be a couple dead bodies in there that I missed. I'll say, if that's not accurate, it's definitely higher. That is the lowest body count of all these movies. This is lower than my estimate, so if I have made any mistakes, then that number should actually be closer to what I predicted, not further away. You can see my official rankings here, and I think this is a pretty good turnout because Wolf Creek, the second from the bottom, even that, there was stuff I liked about it. I didn't totally hate Wolf Creek. Oasis of Zombies is the only one that I'm like, I got nothing out of this. I got absolutely nothing out of this. And it came at just that point where I'm like, kind of tuning it out, where I'm like, oh, I've been doing this so long, and this movie is doing nothing to hold my attention. But overall, yeah, it was a pretty good time. I definitely would have rather spent New Year's partying with my friends, but apropos of being with anyone, this is a pretty good way to spend my time. Big 24-hour movie marathon. I had a lot of fun. And I got a lot of movies watched. 14 movies is more movies than I watch in like 2 weeks. So, yeah, help me catch up on my movie watching a little bit there. Gave me an excuse to watch some movies I've been meaning to get around to. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this wild journey with me. I don't promise I'm ever going to do anything like this again. Although, if the situation arises, maybe. Maybe. I could see me doing this, like, if I had Halloween off, which I might this year. Is it on a Monday? Like, if I had Halloween off and none of my friends were available, I might do this again, but it's got to be a very special occasion for me to try this another time. Anyways, until the next one, happy 2022.